First and foremost, Ukraine is fighting for its own survival, but we must never forget that this is a battle waged on behalf of all of us. If Vladimir Putin was to emerge victorious in Ukraine, an unthinkable prospect, the threat he would then pose to Russia's neighbours and to peace across Europe would be grave indeed. That is why solidarity in deeds as well as in words, in fact, in deeds more than in words, matters so much. And on that front, the Scottish Government, this Parliament and the country as a whole can be proud. As others have said, more than 26,000 Ukrainians have sought refuge here in Scotland, most of them under the super sponsor scheme that I was proud to establish during my time as First Minister, and I was pleased to hear the Cabinet Secretary confirm earlier in the debate that reopening that scheme remains under consideration. It is also worth mentioning, I think, albeit as an aside, that the process of getting that scheme up and running was an example of excellent cooperation between the Scottish and UK governments, an example from which lessons could perhaps be learned. I also want to agree with Patrick Harvey that it is our moral obligation as a country, indeed as human beings, to welcome refugees, not to demonise them. And that should apply to all those seeking refuge from wherever in the world they come. That scheme is important, vitally important, but of course it's not the only support shown by the Scottish Government. There has also been significant humanitarian aid, consignments of medical supplies and support for the crucial work of the Halo Trust. The support also encompasses strong backing for effective sanctions, and as others have noted, it is open to question right now about how effective the sanctions regime is, and that must now be reinforced. However, the point I want to make today, which others have made as President Zelensky indeed is presenting his plan for victory in the United States, is about the wider situation and the vital importance of not just maintaining solidarity with Ukraine, but stepping it up. This is a critical juncture. Just in the last few days, despite Ukraine's military successes of recent times, Russian forces have made significant territorial gains in the east of the country. They are now bearing down on further targets which, if they succeed, would threaten Ukraine's supply routes into the eastern region of Donetsk. So this is happening right now, and it is happening at a time when, whether we like it or not, and in this chamber we don't like it, the attention of the world is drifting. The focus on the developing horror in the Middle East is both understandable and right. Indeed, as Patrick Harvey rightly said, our principled support of Ukraine should apply just as strongly now to the people of Palestine and indeed to others threatened with aggression across our world. But this should not and must not be at the expense of Ukraine. It's also a hard but inescapable fact that political turmoil and instability is threatening the solidity of the coalition that has supported Ukraine over these past 2 years. The rise of the far right in parts of Germany, for example, and of course the possible outcome of the US election. Now, I'll be far from the only one in this chamber fervently hoping for a Kamala Harris victory in November. But unfortunately, the threat of a second Trump presidency cannot be dismissed. One of the many dire consequences of such an outcome could be for Ukraine. The risk of Trump forcing a so-called peace that rewards Putin's aggression would be real.